Talks aimed at curbing Tehran's nuclear program and preventing a wider conflict. The talks come as military pressure builds across the region and after many weeks of escalation between Washington and Tehran. ILTV's India Naftali has the details.
That's right, Lidar. This latest round of talks comes after initial indirect discussions earlier this month, and as pressure continues to build both diplomatically and militarily across the region. U.S. and Iranian officials are meeting today in Geneva for round 2 of negotiations. The goal is to limit Tehran's nuclear program and reduce the risk of a wider conflict. The talks follow an earlier round of indirect discussions held this month in Oman, with Oman continuing to serve as the mediator in today's talks. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is meeting with U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner in Geneva. Araghchi says he has arrived with what he calls practical ideas for a fair deal, but will not submit to threats. Tehran has indicated it may accept limits on its nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief, but continues to insist on its right to enrich uranium. The United States, however, wants the talks to also address Iran's ballistic missile program and its support for armed groups. However, Iran says these issues are not up for negotiation. The diplomatic push comes as the United States builds up its military presence in the region, and Iran runs military drills in the Strait of Hormuz, adding pressure ahead of the talks. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump says he will be involved indirectly in the negotiations. Here's what he told reporters aboard Air Force One.
So I'll be involved in those talks indirectly, and they'll be very important. We'll see what can happen. It's been typically, Iran's a very tough negotiator. They're good negotiators, or bad negotiators. I would say they're bad negotiators because we could have had a deal instead of sending the B-2s in to knock out their nuclear potential, and we had to send the B-2s. I hope they're going to be more reasonable. They want to make a deal.
And meanwhile, visiting U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham said that President Trump will decide between war and a deal with Iran within weeks and not months. Speaking at a press conference in Tel Aviv, he had this to say.
My presence here today is to reassure the Israeli people there is no light or gaps between President Trump and Bibi about what to do and how to do it. There are two lines in the water right now. One's a diplomatic line, trying to find a way to end this regime diplomatically that will advance our national security interest. The other line is the military option. I think President Trump is looking for which line can catch the biggest fish. The bottom line is we're into weeks, not months, in terms of decision making.
And the Islamic Republic of Iran held live military exercises in the Strait of Hormuz and announced it was temporarily shutting down the strait in a rare move. The naval drill, which began yesterday, is an apparent show of force as President Donald Trump threatens military action and even regime change if diplomacy fails. The drills were described by Iranian state media as a response to potential security and military threats. The exercises involve both the regular Iranian Navy and the naval arm of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, including fast attack boats, submarines, drones, and coastal missile batteries. So far, there are no reports of direct incidents with commercial or foreign military vessels, but shipping companies are closely monitoring the situation. Iran has in the past threatened to close the strait in response to sanctions or military pressure, though it has never followed through. The exercises are expected to continue for several days. The timing comes amid a U.S. military buildup in the region, including deploying a second aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford Strike Group. The USS Lincoln Strike Group is already in the region, with the Americans now deployed in the Persian Gulf, Arabian Sea, Red Sea, and the Eastern Mediterranean. With military forces on high alert and diplomacy hanging in the balance, the risk of escalation remains very high. And joining us now with more on the latest in the talks between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran and the threat of war is Dr. Eric Mandel, founder and director of MEPIN. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So the second round of talks coming to a conclusion today, U.S. President Trump saying he will be indirectly involved and expressing optimism that a deal could be reached. What is your assessment of the second round of talks today?
First of all, I think there'll probably be a third round of talks. If this negotiation is only a nuclear deal, that would leave Iran with some enrichment and doesn't address weaponization, ballistic missiles, proxies. No matter how this will be spun, it'll be compared to the JCPOA, the Obama deal, which Trump withdrew from and disparaged. And you have to also remember that nuclear is not just about enrichment. And the president on all of this has to also think about, we're in a midterm election coming up. He has to think about his base. So if I was giving advice to his negotiators, I would say be binary. Don't get sucked into details because the Iranians brought nuclear experts. IAEA chief Rafael Grossi was there yesterday. Don't get sucked in there. This is a binary choice. Enrichment, no enrichment. No amount is too low. And Iran, we have to remember, claims that it has, according to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, the right to enrich uranium. That's not true. The reason is they've been in non-compliance with the IAEA, they've expelled IAEA inspectors, and the NPT does not guarantee unrestricted right to enrich to any level. It's supposed to be a civilian level. They have gone to 84% at one time. So we cannot be fooled here. The bottom line is this has to be a very clear negotiation. It's got to be, in a way, our way or the highway. And we got to remember who the Iranians are, how they negotiate, and the fact that they committed one of the worst atrocities in the last 70 years, killing 40,000 people in just 2 days' time in early January.
So, you know, you mentioned, of course, the massacre of its own people, which is how this all began. You know, we can't forget that tweet, the tweet that President Trump put out, help is on the way, urging Iranians to take to the streets. This is what began it all. So how can the president reconcile this tweet with negotiating with the Ayatollahs? I mean, at the cost, of course, of the Iranian people, because this is essentially extending sort of a life branch to this dying regime. So how can Trump reconcile that?
So I think I work with Iran International. I'm interviewed by them, which is the leading opposition group. And they sent me a new article yesterday of a 17-year-old boy, Sam Asafari, who's a protester who was wounded, taken into a hospital, and was executed in the hospital. I think that individual story is representative of this Iranian regime of 150,000 IRGC, a million Basij who are willing to kill people to keep the regime going. If America abandons the Iranian people, it's a black eye for America. It's a black eye for the president after what he said. And after 40,000 people being killed, if there is no consequence here for mass killing, that is a very bad a way for America to be seen in the world. We are not, even though I know we're expressed as purely transactional, but we must have some value-based foreign policy for us to be respected in the world.
And not just the nuclear issue or, of course, the humanitarian issue, but what about the ballistic missiles? What about the funding of terror proxies throughout the region? Is this on the agenda? Is this on the agenda for a deal?
One of the things that's interesting is we don't know that much. I was in Washington a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking with somebody from the first Trump term, who is one of the foreign policy experts, and he said in this administration, it is a very tight circle of people. There are very few leaks, which means we don't really know what is exactly going on. So we're speculating. And everything you say, whether the president will strike, make a deal, is speculation. So we have to have that caveat. Regarding ballistic missiles, if ballistic missiles are not here, or they're just going to be a perfunctory issue where the Iranians say, we'll discuss it after we address the nuclear, then that's terrible. The ballistic missiles are an integral part of the nuclear because that's how they deliver their potential nuclear weapons. But Israel is even more worried for the immediate that it is existential because the quantity of ballistic missiles can overwhelm Israel's anti-missile systems. I've been to Israel 10 times since October 7th. I've seen what ballistic missiles can do, and both to a base or to a civilian area, and they target civilian areas. It is devastating. So ballistic missiles, not only a part of the nuclear program, but they in and of themselves are an existential threat to Israel. The assessment at this time is they may be back to what they had at June 2025, which was 2,000 ballistic missiles. They are in ramping up production of the ballistic missiles, including the solid state fuel, which makes them quicker to shoot and harder to identify. And so this is an issue Israel has to address. One of the things Israel has to get at this point is the ability to strike the ballistic missiles, even if there's a deal. Now, the question is, say there's a deal and Israel strikes and the president's not happy with it, will CENTCOM and the other players of CENTCOM join in defending Israel if it strikes and the response of ballistic missiles? If Israel has to rely only on its Arrow 2 and 3 and David Sling and other parts of the CENTCOM anti-missile array are not put into place, Israel will be very vulnerable.
Absolutely. So certainly critical days ahead, and we'll, of course, continue to follow. Dr. Eric Mandel, thank you so much for your insights today.
Thank you for having me.
And transitioning to Gaza, representatives of more than 20 countries are beginning to descend on Washington as U.S. President Donald Trump prepares to host the inaugural meeting of the Gaza Board of Peace on Thursday, a summit aimed at advancing reconstruction and post-war security in the Strip. ILTV's Steve Leibovitz has the latest.
About 24 countries are expected to take part in the first meeting of the President Trump-led Board of Peace at the level of heads of state and foreign ministers. Israel will be represented by Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu decided not to attend. The summit is expected to provide a major boost to international reconstruction efforts in Gaza. Officials involved in organizing the meeting say member states are set to announce more than $5 billion in pledges for rebuilding the territory. The initiative is also linked to a broader plan that envisions the disarmament of Hamas and a transition to civilian governance, backed by a proposed international stabilization force. Several countries, including Indonesia, Greece, Italy, and Cyprus, have indicated a willingness to contribute personnel, though full commitments remain unclear. Several key U.S. allies are choosing not to take part in President Trump's Board of Peace, citing concerns over its structure and mandate. The United Kingdom, France, Poland, Norway, Sweden, and Canada have all decided not to join at this stage, with some officials warning the initiative could duplicate or undermine existing United Nations frameworks. Others have raised legal and constitutional questions about formal membership in a body perceived as U.S.-led and outside traditional multilateral channels. The European Union said it will attend the inaugural meeting as an observer only, signaling engagement, but only on the Gaza issue, stopping short of full participation.
So indeed, I can confirm that Commissioner Schwitzer will travel to D.C. Later this week. She will participate in the meeting of the Board of Peace for the specific part dedicated to Gaza. Let me stress that the European Commission is not becoming a member to the Board of Peace.
And Israel is moving forward with plans for a new settlement that would effectively mark the first expansion of Jerusalem since 1967. ILTV's Steve Leibovitz has the story.
A development agreement between the government and the Mate Binyamin Regional Council would see the construction of some 2,780 housing units as a new neighborhood of the Jewish community of Adam, just northeast of Jerusalem. While officially part of Adam, the proposed site is physically separated by Route 437 and the security barrier, and lies much closer to the Jerusalem neighborhood of Neve Yaakov. The project would be built on about 500 dunam of land between the Palestinian towns of Hizma and Al-Ram, with the government investing about 120 million shekels in infrastructure and public facilities. 500 housing units have already been marketed in the first phase. The plan still requires approval from the Civil Administration's Higher Planning Committee, a process that could take up to 2 years. Mate Binyamin Regional Council head Israel Gantz praised the project as the realization of the settlement vision. He said it will provide thousands of new homes, with more such steps expected. The proposal is likely to draw close international scrutiny as it moves through the approval process.
And ILTV is partnering with Regavim to spotlight one of the most critical issues facing Israel today: the protection of our national land and resources. Regavim works on the ground, in the courts, and in the Knesset to expose illegal land seizures, defend the rule of law, and safeguard Israel's heartland, especially in Judea and Samaria. So if you want real data and a deeper understanding of what's happening beyond the headlines, scan the QR code on your screen or visit regavim.org and sign up for their newsletter. Learn how you can play a role in safeguarding the land of Israel. And in other news, the IDF says an Israeli drone strike in the southern Lebanon town of Taluse killed a Hezbollah operative this evening. According to the military, the targeted individual played a key role in restoring Hezbollah's military infrastructure in the area and acted as a local representative of the terror group. He was involved in coordinating between Hezbollah and village residents on both economic and military matters, making him central to the organization's operations in Taluse. The IDF adds that the operative also attempted to seize private property for terror purposes in direct violation of the November 2024 ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. The strike is part of ongoing Israeli efforts to prevent Hezbollah from rebuilding its military capabilities along the northern border. Military sources say Israel will continue to target those who threaten security in the region and underscore that the ceasefire does not provide cover for terror activities. And moving on, the suspect in the deadly Bondi Beach Hanukkah massacre in Sydney has made his first court appearance. 24-year-old Navid Akram appeared Monday by video link from a maximum security prison in Sydney, facing 59 charges related to the December 14th attack during a Jewish Hanukkah event, including 15 counts of murder, 40 counts of intent to murder, and a terrorism offense. The massacre left 15 people dead and dozens injured and involved his father, Sajid Akram, who was killed by police at the scene. In court, Akram spoke briefly, only to acknowledge discussions about a suppression order on victim identities. It was the first time he's been seen or heard since his arrest. His lawyer said it's too early to determine how Akram will plead, as the legal process is just beginning. The case is scheduled to return to court in April, and officials continue investigations into motive and possible further charges. Akram could face life imprisonment, the maximum penalty for the most serious charges against him, including multiple counts of murder and terrorism offenses. Each murder charge carries a possible life sentence, and under Australian law, some terrorism charges also carry life imprisonment. Given the scale of alleged offenses, if convicted, Akram is likely to receive the harshest possible sentence, including life without parole.
At U Haifa International, academic excellence isn't just a standard, it's a way of life. With 21 English-taught master's programs, world-class faculty, and Israel's top national score in the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings, students grow in every direction.
If you really want to challenge yourself academically, grow in a very diverse community, and be immersed in such an important and significant environment, University of Haifa is the place for you.
Located on the stunning Carmel Ridge, the U Haifa blends academic excellence with a welcoming community.
U Haifa International has a great combination of top-notch academics with a great community of students.
Whether you're pursuing a one-year master's or diving into research, U Haifa gives you the tools, mentorship, and real-life insight to make your mark on the world. U Haifa International. Master your mind, live your Israel experience.
And in other news, a routine anti-looting operation has uncovered an extraordinary glimpse into Jewish life 2,000 years ago. ILTV's Deva Klein has the story.
Inspectors from the Israel Antiquities Authority were monitoring illegal digging on the eastern slope of Mount Scopus when they caught 5 suspects excavating inside a cave. But what they found the next morning stunned even veteran archaeologists. Eitan Klein of the authority's theft prevention unit said, quote, "We were shocked to find more than 100 pieces." The fragments turn out to be stone cups, bowls, and other vessels from the late Second Temple period, when Jewish law held that stone, unlike pottery, could not become ritually impure. That made limestone vessels especially important for pilgrims traveling to Jerusalem to visit the temple before its destruction in 70 CE.
Each of the artifacts you see here behind me actually has a criminal record. It was stolen, seized, or looted from some archaeological site, either in Israel or abroad.
Archaeologists say that the cave served as a workshop along the main eastern road into the city, used by travelers coming from Jericho and the Jordan Valley. Soft local limestone or chalk made the site ideal for carving ritual vessels that were likely sold in Jerusalem. Production waste found inside the cave confirms its function as a factory. The artifacts are now on display at the IIA's National Campus in Jerusalem as part of a new exhibition on antiquities looting and prevention. Officials say the suspects face charges of illegal excavation and damage to antiquities sites, while researchers say the discovery helps piece together daily religious life in Jerusalem's final years before the temple fell.
And in sports news, a clip taken from yesterday's NBA All-Stars game is currently going viral. In the video, NBA legend and four-time champion LeBron James said he heard great things about Israel and would love to visit. LeBron was asked for his views on Israel by our very own correspondent Libby Alon, who filed a report to us yesterday live from the court. But now her one question has sparked a mass wave of backlash against the Lakers forward. Let's take a look at the clip.
Libby from Channel 14 in Israel. For all the Israeli fans, what message would you like to send for Israel, and also what do you think about Danny Avdia?
Well, I've been quoted on Danny already, and they asked me what I thought about this season. I said I believe he was an all-star, and I mean, he is an all-star. He's playing exceptional basketball. So that's that. And then I mean, if I have fans over there, I've never been there. If I have fans over there, then, I hope you have been following my career. I hope I inspire people over there to not only want to be great in sports, but I want you to be better in general in life. So hopefully someday I can make it over there. Like I said, I've never been over there, but I've heard nothing but great things, and I appreciate the question.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
LeBron James is currently going viral for his comments on Israel, and the media is crucifying the champion for saying he would like to visit. Our correspondent Libby Alon was courtside for the All-Stars game, but the reaction to LeBron's answer to her question has been nothing shy of a witch hunt. Some are calling LeBron a supporter of genocide, others demanding he should be canceled. But the reaction in Israel was incredibly positive, and now Israeli fans are hoping he follows through and comes to visit the Jewish state.
U.S. and Iranian officials met today in Geneva for a second round of high-stakes talks aimed at curbing Tehran's nuclear program and preventing a wider conflict. The talks come as military pressure builds across the region and after many weeks of escalation between Washington and Tehran. ILTV's India Naftali has the details.
That's right, Lidar. This latest round of talks comes after initial indirect discussions earlier this month, and as pressure continues to build both diplomatically and militarily across the region. U.S. and Iranian officials are meeting today in Geneva for round 2 of negotiations. The goal is to limit Tehran's nuclear program and reduce the risk of a wider conflict. The talks follow an earlier round of indirect discussions held this month in Oman, with Oman continuing to serve as the mediator in today's talks. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is meeting with U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner in Geneva. Araghchi says he has arrived with what he calls practical ideas for a fair deal, but warns that Iran will not submit to threats. Tehran has indicated it may accept limits on its nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief, but continues to insist on its right to enrich uranium. The United States, however, wants the talks to also address Iran's ballistic missile program and its support for armed groups. However, Iran says these issues are not up for negotiation. The diplomatic push comes as the United States builds up its military presence in the region, and Iran runs military drills in the Strait of Hormuz, adding